It's gotta be biblical.
Looking for a fast way to track what's moving online right now? Head over to Qnotables.com. It's a centralized index of notable clips, headlines, and references being shared across the community, organized for quick browsing. Use it to spot patterns, pull links, and build your own research list. Qnotables.com. Browse the notables, verify the facts, stay informed. All reports can be found on qresearch or qnotables.com. Notables do not equal endorsements. We are researchers who deal in open source information, reasoned argument, and dank memes. We do battle in the sphere of ideas and ideas only. We neither need nor condone the use of force in our work here. President Donald Trump delivered a major address at the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland on January 21st. His speech was one of the most anticipated events of the summit, drawing international attention due to its foreign policy themes, its economic focus, and its discussion of U.S. national interests in the Arctic. The address also came at a time of increased tension between the United States and European governments, especially regarding the future of Greenland. President Trump opened by explaining why he believes the Arctic region matters to U.S. national security. He described Greenland as strategically important because of its location between North America and Europe. He noted that Arctic shipping routes are becoming more active, that military radar systems in the region play a role in missile defense, and that the island contains natural resources that are valuable in the global economy. Trump stated that the United States has long been responsible for defending the West, and that this responsibility extends into the Arctic. Trump then addressed the issue that dominated headlines: the status of Greenland. He told world leaders that the United States should begin negotiations with Denmark regarding Greenland's transfer. He said the United States would be able to provide for the island's defense, infrastructure development, and investment. He emphasized that he believes Greenland would benefit economically and strategically under U.S. administration. Trump also made it clear that the United States will not use military force to take Greenland. He stated that his approach would be diplomatic and negotiation-based. From there, Trump shifted into criticism of NATO. He repeated a long-standing complaint that the United States pays far more for defense than most European allies. He argued that NATO members have not met spending targets and are used to relying on American military strength. Trump said this situation is not fair to U.S. taxpayers and that NATO must be rebalanced if it is to continue. He also said Europe is heading in the wrong direction on migration and economic policies, and that those trends weaken Europe's security position. On domestic policy, Trump highlighted U.S. economic performance. He pointed to numbers on growth, inflation, and manufacturing. He argued that the United States is stronger economically than most European nations, and that the U.S. model is more sustainable. He said American industries continue to expand, and he predicted further investment in aerospace, energy, and technology. Trump also brought up a new policy concept he called the Board of Peace. He described it as a diplomatic initiative that would bring together leaders and advisors to negotiate solutions to international conflicts. He suggested that this could play a role in disputes such as the conflict involving Israel and Hamas. Trump said the Board of Peace is an effort to create alternative paths to stability without endless military action. Once the main address concluded, Trump participated in informal exchanges with reporters. This was not a structured Q&A session on stage, but it played a major role in shaping the public reaction. Reporters asked Trump to clarify whether the United States would use force to obtain Greenland. Trump said no, and that force is not an option. He said he prefers negotiation and believes Denmark should be open to discussions. Reporters also asked about European opposition. Trump responded that disagreement from Europe is expected on issues where U.S. interests differ. He said that decisions about U.S. national strategy cannot be controlled by foreign governments and that the United States will pursue outcomes that improve national security and economic security. When asked about Denmark's position, Trump said Denmark's leadership should think about what is best for Greenland's population rather than simply rejecting the idea. Reaction from European officials has been firm. Denmark and other European leaders have stated that Greenland is not for sale. They say that territorial transfers involving NATO allies are not something they will consider. European Union officials also voiced concern about the idea of opening negotiations on territorial matters. They said it could set a precedent that would create instability across Europe. Despite the pushback, Trump stated that conversations will continue and that negotiating does not require immediate agreement. His remarks indicate the United States may pursue diplomatic channels related to Greenland's future for some time. This event marked one of Trump's most assertive speeches on foreign policy since returning to office. It demonstrated a clear strategic interest in the Arctic, a continued critique of NATO's current structure, and an economic message intended to contrast the United States with Europe.
At shop.isitwaya.com, everything you buy supports acun.top, the place where people talk freely no matter what. Check out our Acun Honey Pot, a jar of yummy honey that's as strong as your voice. Put it on toast or in tea. It's not just honey, it's freedom in every bite. Then there's Acun Butter, a smooth handmade skin cream that makes you feel good while you fight for what's right. Awesome wooden pieces for display only. Hang them up or set them out. They're for showing off Acun's tough spirit. Want to help even more? Get a proto membership. So go to shop.isitwaya.com now and grab some goodies. Help Acun.top keep free speech alive, and let's keep the ideas flowing loud and free.
All reports can be found on qresearch or Qnotables.com. Notables do not equal endorsements. We are researchers who deal in open source information, reasoned argument, and dank memes. We do battle in the sphere of ideas and ideas only. We neither need nor condone the use of force in our work here.
From the Q Research Boards. January 21, 2026, President Trump's travel to the World Economic Forum in Davos got off to an unusual start. After departing Joint Base Andrews, Air Force One turned back due to a minor electrical issue, forcing the president to temporarily return to Washington. The White House says the situation was not serious, and the trip will continue with a different aircraft. Trump is still expected to deliver a special address to CEOs and world leaders at 8 a.m. Eastern at the forum in Switzerland. The original presidential aircraft was tracked off the coast of Ireland before it made a U-turn and returned to the Washington area. Officials described the issue as minor, and shortly after midnight the president boarded a replacement plane, maintaining his schedule to attend the World Economic Forum. The incident underscores the logistical challenges of presidential travel, but did not. Multiple U.S. Air Force KC-135R Stratotanker aerial refueling aircraft reportedly took off from bases in California and Maine, heading east toward Europe. The tankers are expected to support transatlantic operations and may refuel presidential support aircraft en route to Switzerland for the summit. While routine for overseas deployments, the deployment highlights the coordination required for large presidential delegations. After the temporary delay of Air Force One, the president boarded a C-32A aircraft from Joint Base Andrews. With the appropriate Air Force One call sign, that jet departed for Davos, reaffirming that Trump will participate in the 56th annual summit of the World Economic Forum with world leaders and global business figures in attendance. Social media aviation trackers reported various call signs, including one noted as SAM-47, as part of the presidential travel package to Europe. Flight enthusiasts and official trackers saw a 757-style aircraft configuration follow from Andrews, indicating backup and logistical support amid the original aircraft's return to base. Meanwhile, a Japanese court has sentenced Tetsuya Yamagami to life in prison for fatally shooting former Prime Minister Shinzo Abe in July 2022. The verdict comes nearly 4 years after the assassination at a campaign event in Nara and closes a high-profile case in a nation where gun violence is extremely rare. Abe's killing shocked Japan and drew global attention to political ties and security protocols. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer faced questions at the House of Commons during the weekly Prime Minister's Questions session, where lawmakers pressed him on domestic and foreign policy issues, including economic relations, defense strategy, and responses to global challenges. His remarks reflect ongoing debates in London about the UK's role on the world stage and cooperation with allies. Advancing scientific and seismic research, scientists are examining how solar activity, including charged particles and geomagnetic storms, can interact with Earth's crust and potentially trigger vibrations or movements. While not a mainstream explanation for earthquakes, researchers continue to study links between space weather and terrestrial geophysical responses. President Trump has departed for Davos, Switzerland, where he's set to address the World Economic Forum and meet with key world leaders. His team says he'll carry an America First message into a room traditionally dominated by globalist elites. Supporters online are noting that Trump's Davos trip falls near the anniversary of a 2018 Q post referencing the shot heard around the world and a week to remember. For many in that movement, the timing adds symbolic weight to an already high-stakes visit. Cameras captured the president boarding Air Force One for Davos, with the White House confirming he'll deliver formal remarks at the World Economic Forum. The trip is being framed as an opportunity to confront the same financial and political forces that have pushed globalism for decades. In a statement, President Trump said, "America will be well represented in Davos, by me," adding, "God bless you all." His message signals that he sees himself, not the permanent bureaucracy, as the voice of American interests on the world stage. Trump is also drawing attention to what he calls a one-sided alliance with NATO over Greenland. He argues that the U.S. shoulders most of the cost while European states drag their feet on securing the Arctic, and he's signaling that free rides are coming to an end. Aviation sources later noted that the plane's squawk code remained normal and no emergency transponder signal was sent. That detail suggested the situation was under control and put to rest early fears of a serious in-flight emergency. Video from the highway showed a U.S. government motorcade racing with lights and sirens toward Joint Base Andrews after Air Force One turned around over the Atlantic. The sight of SUV convoys rushing back to the base added to the urgency and mystery of the situation. Plane spotters also reported unusually heavy military and government air traffic in U.S. skies around the same time. The elevated tempo fueled talk that Washington is quietly on a heightened readiness footing, both for security and for Arctic-related moves. Air controllers say Air Force One radioed Washington Center to state it needed no assistance despite the turnback. That message emphasized there was no distress situation and that the crew had the issue under control. The White House later confirmed that Air Force One returned to Andrews due to a minor electrical issue detected after takeoff. Officials say the president will simply switch aircraft and continue on to Davos, calling the decision precautionary and emphasizing safety. Live protest streams continue to show unrest across several cities tied to immigration enforcement, Gaza policy, and economic frustration. For many viewers, independent feeds have become the only way to see these protests without corporate media filtering or selective editing. Commentators are revisiting April 9, 1940, when Nazi Germany invaded Denmark in a matter of hours to secure access to Norway and control sea lanes. The history lesson is being used as a warning. Small nations in strategic locations can fall quickly when larger powers decide to move. A viral clip shows a student calmly telling a shouting activist, "Just because you're yelling doesn't mean you're winning an argument." The exchange has become a symbol of how reasoned pushback can puncture emotional intimidation in today's campus and street debates. A new feature titled "The Rise of the Billionaires" asks whether democracy is effectively for sale to the highest bidder. It examines how concentrated wealth and global foundations shape elections, policy, and even censorship in supposedly free societies. Reports say Pakistan is preparing to send Chinese-built warplanes to a Libyan faction aligned with General Haftar. The move underscores how Beijing is expanding its weapons footprint in Africa and the Mediterranean, complicating already tangled alliances on the ground. Online, supporters wished Trump a happy anniversary of his return to office, marking 1 year since his inauguration and framing it as the beginning of a long overdue course correction. The sentiment points to a base that remains energized and loyal. Anons have compiled a detailed recap on Greenland, summarizing the island's massive size, its resource potential, and its importance for missile defense and polar surveillance. They argue that whoever controls Greenland will hold a key lever in 21st century geopolitics. Former Florida Attorney General Pam Bondi is in Minnesota for a press conference where she is expected to call out officials tied to the state's fraud scandals. Her message is that no public official is above the law, no matter how powerful their allies. A self-described Antifa activist is on video boasting that he'll unload Max on ICE, widely interpreted as a threat of maximum violence. The clip is fueling calls for authorities to apply the same standards to left-wing threats they have used against January 6 defendants. The president has signed a proclamation declaring January 20, 2026, a National Day of Patriotic Devotion. The move is meant to reaffirm love of country, honor sacrifices made for freedom, and mark a clear break from years of cultural and political self-loathing. The White House says President Trump will deliver remarks at the 2026 World Economic Forum at 8:30 a.m. Eastern. Many expect a blunt speech challenging the globalist orthodoxy on trade, migration, and digital control systems.
Every voice matters. The power of free speech is more important than ever. Imagine a place where you can share your thoughts freely, explore new ideas, and engage in meaningful conversations anonymously. With online anonymity, you can express yourself without fear of judgment. It's about freedom, creativity, and connection. Join the conversation that matters. Embrace your voice. Celebrate your freedom. Visit 8kun.top today. That's 8kun.top.
All reports can be found on QResearch or Qnotables.com. Notables do not equal endorsements. We are researchers who deal in open source information, reasoned argument, and dank memes. We do battle in the sphere of ideas and ideas only. We neither need nor condone the use of force in our work here.
From the Q Research Boards, January 21st, 2026. 1 year after taking office again, Trump allies say patriotism is rising, America is back, and the story is just getting started. They point to aggressive policy shifts on energy, borders, tariffs, and foreign policy as proof he is delivering on his promises. The Second Lady announced that our family is growing, sharing that the family is expecting a new baby. The news adds a personal note of joy amid a heavy political news cycle. A viral post claims the X algorithm doesn't care about your politics, only your vibes, warning that engagement farming and obvious bait will be quietly throttled. Users are being told that authentic signals now matter more than outrage spam. The White House released a first-year-by-the-numbers snapshot, highlighting job gains, lower inflation, rising energy production, and fewer illegal crossings. The administration says the data prove that changing leadership can quickly change the country's trajectory. Under the banner, 1 year of America First, officials are touting tariffs, reshoring, and new border policies as a coherent doctrine. They argue that prioritizing the American worker and taxpayer is not radical. It is the basic duty of any legitimate government. Commentator Stephen Miller noted that after a decade of persecution, near assassinations, and non-stop attacks from the political class, Trump's return to power was an earthquake that shook the establishment to its core. He says the system still hasn't recovered from the shock. Former aide Katie Miller shared a photo of longtime Trump confidant Dan Scavino and his fiancée, noting his 35 years with Trump. The image underscores how tight-knit the inner circle remains after years of campaigns, investigations, and media attacks. An undercover video has captured alleged fraudsters bragging about bribing immigration judges. The footage is fueling outrage over claims that parts of the court system are effectively for sale, especially on life-changing decisions like asylum and deportation. New footage from James O'Keefe's infiltration of Davos shows climate executives speaking candidly about hidden agendas and money flows. Viewers say the clips expose a two-tier system: public virtue signaling and private profit schemes. The Department of War released a one-year highlight reel showcasing President Trump and Secretary Hegseth's agenda, emphasizing peace through strength, rebuilding the military, and renewed respect for U.S. power abroad. Investigators say thousands of radical activists have formed rapid response teams designed to swarm ICE operations across the country. The tactic is to overwhelm law enforcement, generate viral video, and intimidate officers from doing their jobs. A healthcare executive in Vermont has pleaded guilty to a kickback scheme that siphoned money from federal programs. The case underscores how corruption in medicine not only wastes taxpayer dollars, but can distort patient care and treatment decisions. House Oversight Chair James Comer is moving forward with a contempt vote as the Clintons make what Republicans call outrageous demands to limit disclosures. The standoff is becoming a test of whether powerful political families can still stonewall Congress. In a blunt outburst, Danish MEP Anders Vistisen told Trump to F off over his Greenland push. The insult highlights the emotional, not just strategic stakes for European officials who fear losing control of critical territory and resources. At Davos, Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau was confronted over COVID vaccine injuries. Video shows him laughing off the question and declining to apologize, a response that angered families who say they were harmed and ignored. A radical activist has been filmed openly calling for the overthrow of the Trump government. The clip is being circulated as evidence that some opponents have moved from resistance rhetoric to outright insurrection talk. A new compilation titled "A Year of Winning" walks through Trump's first year back in office month by month, highlighting policy victories, foreign agreements, and regulatory rollbacks. Supporters say it proves how much can change when someone actually delivers. Plane spotters continue to track unusual patterns and military movements, reading them as signals of upcoming operations. While not official, their open-source work often spots trends long before corporate media notices. Activists are sharing workarounds for posting videos in environments that throttle or suppress certain content. The tips range from file renaming to multi-platform mirroring, as users try to stay ahead of constantly shifting moderation rules. Legal analysts say anti-ICE nonprofits could lose their tax-exempt status if they are found to be inciting law-breaking or obstructing federal operations. The possibility has groups re-examining their tactics and messaging as the stakes rise. A Davos panel featuring Alex Karp, CEO of Palantir, is drawing scrutiny as he discusses data, surveillance, and predictive tools. Critics say such technology in the wrong hands is a recipe for a permanent security state. A report on economic diplomacy lays out how countries like Australia are reorienting their trade and investment strategies in a shifting world order. Instead of quiet technocratic deals, economic policy is increasingly being used as a frontline geopolitical weapon. Bombshell footage claims that judges in Ohio immigration courts can be bought with bribes, turning justice into a cash transaction. If proven true, it would confirm what many Americans already suspect about a two-tiered, pay-to-play system. The administration is touting a renaissance of American shipbuilding, pointing to new contracts and yard expansions as proof that decades of offshoring can be reversed. Naval strength and good-paying blue-collar jobs are back in the same sentence. When asked how far he's willing to go to take Greenland, Trump answered, "You'll find out." The cryptic reply has only fueled speculation that major moves are coming in the Arctic. In Florida, police showed up at a woman's home after the mayor's office flagged her critical Facebook comment. The incident raises serious questions about local officials using law enforcement to intimidate political critics. Trump allies are hammering home a simple message: no more offshoring, no more prioritizing foreign labor, and no more unfair trade. The goal, they say, is to rebuild a middle class that has been hollowed out by decades of globalist policy. In Minneapolis, Pam Bondi declared that no one is above the law, whether public official or police officer. Her remarks came as grand jury subpoenas and federal probes close in on those tied to massive fraud and anti-ICE violence.
Don'tDeleteMeBro.com. 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 Share the site with others. Don'tDeleteMeBro.com. 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 Share the site with others. Don'tDeleteMeBro.com.
That's all for now. Stay alert, stay informed, and never hand your thinking over to anyone on a screen, including me. God bless you, God bless our troops, and God bless the United States of America. See you soon.